Pentacle, Chapter 10, 8 of Wands. He felt tense on the way to speaking with the witness. An artist's sketch only caught someone 8% of the time. Its true purpose was to stir public interest with the hope that someone might come forward with a tip or a clue. Whether he did a good sketch or not, it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Still, he had to play his part. He focused his mind on his teacher, and like an actor rehearsing his line, Kain thought of all the usual questions his teacher asked the witness. Arden didn't emotionally prepare Kain to interrogate a small child, and based on the bruise around the kid's neck, he could tell that the kid had been choked. And Kain sighed with frustration. The child echoed his sigh, and the mother who was with the kid encouraged him to speak. "When I was your age, a bad man got inside my house," said Kain. "Did you call the police?" asked the child. "No," said Kain. "Did you call your mom for help?" asked the kid. "I did nothing. I allowed him to put me to bed, and I closed my eyes and I pretended. That is to say, I acted like nothing was happening. I was a coward, but you are a brave child, and I can tell from that wound around your neck, and you tried to protect your mommy, didn't you?" said Kain. "What difference did it make?" said the child sadly. "We still got robbed." "It did make a big difference in your mother's life, and now she knows just how much you love her, and your friends in school now know that you're brave enough to stand up to any bully, regardless of their size," said Kain. "I guess," said the kid, staring at his feet. "Do you remember what the bad man looked like?" asked Kain. "It was dark. He was wearing a mask most of the time. I didn't get a good look at him," said the kid. This was the reason why he had been brought into questioning. He had seen the thief's face. And Kain said, "After all this time, I still remember the face of the man who snuck into my house." "You do?" asked the kid, incredulous. "But that happened ages ago. How can you still remember?" "He had an ugly hook nose," said Kain, drawing an ugly hook nose. "And did your thief have an ugly hook nose?" "Nah, his nose was more round," said the kid, coming closer to watch Kain draw. And through this indirect method, Kain was able to do an artist sketch of the perp. And as soon as it was over, he breathed a sigh of relief. He handed in his work before going on patrol, and he needed to get away from that toxicity. And when driving about, he recognized a familiar face, and he was one of the homeless men he would feed at Camilo's house. The man was being harassed by a fellow police officer. "Is there a problem?" asked Kain, stopping his patrol car. "There is no problem. I'm just teaching this man some manners," said the other officer. "The best way to teach a man some manner is to have him rot in a holding cell for a week," said Kain coldly. The homeless man shrunk into his skin, and he meekly entered Kain's patrol car. And once he was a few blocks away from the other officer, Kain asked, "So where do I drop you off?" "You're not arresting me," asked the stranger. "If I didn't see you do anything wrong, then I had no reason to arrest you," said Kain flatly. Like his grandma, he was a firm believer that seeing was believing. "I left my things behind the bush. Can you return for them?" asked the stranger. "It isn't an entire card, is it? Because I don't have much room in my trunk," said Kain. "It isn't much," said the stranger. Kain returned to the underpass, and the stranger was able to recover his belongings. And he dropped them off at Camilo's house, and since it was close to noon, Kain figured that he might as well make lunch. "You're not staying for lunch, Mr. Sanson?" asked a homeless old woman. "My new job doesn't give me as much flexibility with my activities, and if they find out that I'm here instead of on patrol, I could get in a lot of trouble," said Kain. We will pretend not to have seen you, officer," said the old woman. Good. Although just to be safe, here are some wanted posters that I made today. And if they ask, I will tell them that I was doing some actual police work," said Kain, giving the posters. "What did the prick do?" asked the old woman. "He broke into a woman's apartment and he choked the baby for good measure," said Kain, showing the wanted poster. "He choked a baby?" asked one of the volunteers, shocked. "He choked a little kid, and I think he was 3 or 4 years old," said Kain, remembering. "And if you have any anonymous thieves, well, just call my department." and Kain left a business card along with a few wanted posters, and at least if he was asked why he was not in his patrol route, he could claim to have been running his own parallel investigation. And he returned to work in time to check out for his lunch break. And then you hand out the wanted posters you just made, asked William, who was talking with a different colleague. Yes, and they saw one on call already, asked Kain. Yes, a few minutes ago actually, and I like your initiative. Continue your good work, said Williams. I will, said Kain, lowering his gaze. By and by, do you have a bachelor's degree in computer science? Asked Williams. I wasn't aware that I would need a degree to be a cop, said Kain dryly. Oh, a degree isn't necessary. I was just asking about it since you're pretty good with computers, said Williams. I learned by doing, or should I say by destroying. My grandpa was heavily invested in nurturing what little talents I had, and since I was good with computers, he gave me plenty of old PCs to dismantle, and I learned much by ripping them apart and putting them back together. And the rest I learned through self-study, and I also go to computer classes in the university sometimes, just to see what they're teaching, and what they teach in school is pretty far behind with what is being done to computers these days. Which reminds me, have you been stupid enough to open an email titled, I love you, ranted Kain, and he took care to omit his little tricks to fortune and the dark web. Yes, I did recently open an email called I love you. Did you send it? Asked Williams jokingly. No, but it falls on me to inform you that your computer is going to implode if I do not remove the virus that is currently circulating its operating system, said Kain. Kain spent his last time removing Blasterworm from his boss's personal computer, as well as a bunch of other PCs that had gotten infested. Even if he didn't have a degree, he was skilled with computer, and he impressed William enough to make Kain their temporary forensic computer analyst. If he continued to make himself useful, this position would become permanent, with a raise that reflected his new task. Kain felt enthusiasm, and he didn't believe that he was ever going to get a raise or a new position, and he no longer believed that good things could happen to him. And since last summer, his orderly, peaceful life had gone to hell, and everything had started when Karina sent Jack a letter, and it was because of her that he had met Eugenia, and it was because of her that he had crossed paths with Eric, and it was all her fault. And the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. Possessed by a singular thought, Kain went outside to call Karina, and since she didn't answer her cell phone, he said, You ruined my life, Karina, and why do you have to meddle in my affairs, and why couldn't you just accept me as I was, and why do you have to bring chaos to my peaceful, predictable existence? Why couldn't you just let me be happy? After saying his piece, he immediately regretted it, and rationally speaking, Karina wasn't responsible for all the random little incidents that had brought him to this point. And he placed a device underneath his cell phone and deactivated the spyware he had on Karina's cell phone, and he erased the message that he had sent her. And little did he suspect that Karina had managed to hear the message, though not completely. She only heard the beginning. Karina spent her day pondering why or how she had ruined Kain's life, and she admitted that she had caused unnecessary pain by forcing her friend to confront his distant father, and that to have reconciled since during her intervention, so now she fancied that their reconciliation had come at a high price, and she was not as close to Kain as she once was, and she could feel him drifting away little by little. The workday came to an end, and Kain drove home to prepare to go out with Oberon, and he was sick of the club scene where he wanted to breathe the same air as his friend, and he was surprised to see Karina's car outside his home. And she probably heard my message, thought Kain, and he found Karina sitting on the couch, and based on her scrub she had driven directly from work to his house. And he sat down beside her, and he stared at the floor, and he was quiet for some time before working out the courage to speak. I'm sorry, Karina, I didn't mean what I said. I'm just under a lot of stress, said Kain apologetically. I know that doesn't excuse. Relax, Kain, said Karina. I'm sorry, repeated Kain. I am telling you that you need to relax, said Karina. That is what I'm trying to do every night I go out, said Kain. Apparently it's not working. Stay at home today. Watch a boring movie with your grandma, or do nothing while lying on the couch for a couple of hours. Let's get a pizza, said Karina, making plans for her friend. She was often dictatorial and pushy, and since she always meant well, Kain always forgave her for bossing him about. A part of him did like that she told him what to do, and this removed the burden of deciding what he wanted to do in this round green earth. And that night he decided to go out. That night That night he didn't go out with Oberon, and he stayed home chilling with his best friend Karina. The following day he went over to watch telenovelas with Karina at her house, and Oberon was not amused by the change. And why had Kain suddenly decided to stop going out? He's probably jealous, said Arden that night while dozing off on top of Oberon's chest. Jealous of who? Asked Oberon. Of little me, said Arden before snuggling closer. Don't be ridiculous, Kain doesn't like men. He has no reason to be jealous of you, said Oberon. And yet he acts like a jealous bitch, throwing shadows at anyone who gets close to you, said Arden. The poor fool is in love, and you have to be pretty blind not to see all the signs. What signs? Asked Oberon, confused. I already said too much, joked Arden. Tell me the signs already, insisted Oberon. I will tell you, but it will cost you, said Arden ominously. I just paid the rent. I don't have any cash to spare, said Oberon sadly. There is something else you can pay me with, said Arden, caressing Oberon's fair nether regions. Oberon didn't like to take away the lightning shine, and since he wanted to know of the signs, he allowed Arden to break him. And Arden stopped at a certain point when his guilt overcame his lust. And wow, you really do like that Kain guy, don't you? Said Arden sadly, and you are both very lucky to have found each other. The signs! Tell me the signs, insisted Oberon. Kain told me that his grandpa wasn't alive to tell him that he shouldn't fall in love with a man, said Arden. Yeah, that corny line totally sounds like Kain, said Oberon, smiling sadly. The only obstacle you need to overcome is his grandpa, said Arden. Grandpa Raphael is dead, said Oberon. He may be dead, but he casts a dark shadow over Kain's mind. And you are someone that his grandpa would disapprove of, and you need to convince the memory of that man that you are worthy of Kain's affection, mused Arden. How long ago did Kain say that he had the heart for me? Asked Oberon, getting dressed quickly. You misheard me. He doesn't have the heart for you. He loves you, which is very different, said Arden. Since when are you a Kain expert? Asked Oberon. I am studying to become a full detective, and as part of my homework I was instructed to people watch, to try to stitch a person's past based on whatever evidence I can find. And just from a photo alone, I learned that Kain still takes his grandpa's opinion seriously. The way he stares at that photo of his own man that he has on his desk, I almost feel like they are having a silent conversation, explained Arden. You don't say that the photo talks back, asked Oberon, biting his thumb nervously. Don't be ridiculous, Oberon. Ghosts aren't real, said Arden, laughing. That's debatable, said Oberon, pouting. Don't tell me. And to Oberon, you can see dead people? Teased Arden. I am not in the mood, said Oberon, and he stood up before Arden, and he asked, how do I look? Muy macho, laughed Arden, and he added, seriously, a jeans and a tank top, is that how you plan to woo your man? It is not as if I have anything better to wear, said Oberon. And what about that tuxedo that is sticking out of your closet? Asked Arden. That is just a working tuxedo, and I have to look fly to drive Eugenia around, said Oberon, sighing. You could try out for the police academy. I know people, Anne, said Arden. Guns made me nervous, said Oberon, and he had a similar discussion with King. But Bouncer, come now. Don't you know how to do anything else other than fighting in that stupid clown show you do on the weekends? Asked Arden. I wasn't given the opportunity to become educated, said Oberon. He opened his mouth to say more, but he chose to remain silent. He noticed that Arden was probing in order to get more information out of him, and Oberon didn't consider Arden his friend. He was just some guy that only called to arrange a play date, and he had no plans of forming a relationship with another closet case. And if Arden wasn't brave enough to stand by his side, then he was unworthy of Oberon's friendship. He threw Arden out of his apartment before locking up, and he called Kain to get a read on his whereabouts, and Kain was at home sleeping. It was then when Oberon realized how late it was. Tomorrow we need to talk, wrote Oberon. I'd rather we get it out of the way right now, tested Kain. Otherwise it's going to be difficult for me to sleep since I'm going to be worrying about tomorrow. Oberon arrived to Kain's house in less than 20 minutes, and there was no traffic at 1 in the morning. And Kain opened the door softly, and he held his index finger to his lips. And Oberon tiptoed within, and Kain turned on the alarm again before slipping into the bedroom. And with Oberon following close behind, and he sat down at the edge of the bed, and based on how he was clasping his hands, Oberon could tell that Kain was nervous. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye, and God bless.